Welcome to our Ducktail Dads podcast. We're excited to share our thoughts with you, share this time with you. And my name is Ryan. I am the newest of this group, of this trio to the game of Lorcana. And I am joined today by the OG group champ, the Mirabelle Matt Holder himself, my newish friend. Mack, what's new in your world, Mack? Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Yeah, I've been in Lorcana for almost a year now. I think I started just before Inklands was released, and have been full send ever since, really. Another mutual friend of the three of us got me into it at first, and he set the hook pretty deep. So I've been interested to kind of build up my gameplay as well as trying to develop more deck ideas throughout the way. But yeah, it's been a fun community to be a part of for over the last year, and with you two, building our friendship along the way. I'm so excited to be a part of it, and it's been a fun journey thus far.
Right on. Well, I'm excited to see where this new journey takes us to. We're also joined by a newly crowned champion, the Scar Mat holder, Nathaniel. What's new in your world, Nathaniel?
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Um, yeah, what's new in my world? Recruiting more Lorcana folks. So tonight, went over to a buddy's house, introduced him to the game, gave him a couple starter decks and one that I'd kind of made for fun, and had some fun. Just played the game and set the hook in him as well, hopefully. So if that materializes, we'll be at about one per month over the last 3-4 months or so. So that'll feel good. Um, I've been playing Lorcana since about July, August of last year, so about 6-7 months now. And I actually was there about a year or so ago, maybe not quite, when Mack first gave Connor a pack or two for his birthday, and just was so curious, what this is all about. It took a couple months to kind of have that interest peak, and I'm glad it did. So I give Mac a good amount of credit along with Connor for bringing me into the fold and trying to just help more people find this game, because I think it's just so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. You set the hook in me, Nathaniel, back in, was that end of November?
Yeah.
December? End of November? Mid-November? Um, we met for dinner, and then little did I know that I was going to walk away from dinner with a newfound interest in a card game I had no idea about before dinner. But for our listeners, one thing you may be asking yourself at this point in the podcast is, what are we doing here? What are we going to be talking about on this podcast exactly? So Disney, or not Disney, Ravensburger has a trading card game, Disney Lorcana. If you found this podcast, you're likely well acquainted with it by now. And we'll be talking about the game, the decks, the meta, new cards, new strategies, those type of things. But we'll also be throwing in sprinkling of balancing our family life with this hobby, figuring out how to work it around our jobs, and how to balance all three of those interests with other interests in our life too, reffing basketball games, whatever it may be. And so we will be going down all those different rabbit holes with you along for the ride as well. Anything either of you would like to add to kind of what we want to be covering or talking about on the podcast?
I think I could just add that, part of what we're all, I think, discovering along this journey together is, how do you effectively balance out a hobby that can really be sky's the limit in terms of the time you want to invest in it, with all of the other very important things going on in your life, like your family, like your full-time job, or your other hobbies, right? Like, those are important aspects that you're trying to balance with those things. And if you want to be competitive, right, it's going to take some time, and finding that right mix can certainly be challenging, but also extremely rewarding. So I think we're here to kind of represent that. Like, there's lots of cool stuff happening in this game, but we're also we have other identities outside of the blue-red player that happens on the at the game table.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't talk bad about those blue-red players, right, Nathaniel? Come on. That's how I got my set champ win. Give me some slack.
Ruby Sapphire is everyone's favorite color pairing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, 40% at Nats, baby. That's
Exactly.
everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite, the overwhelming favorite. So, well, with this intro episode, we'll just kind of talk to y'all about what our path was with Lorcana a little bit more in depth than what we already heard, and then also talk about what keeps us coming back, the different kind of combinations we've been looking at and liking, and then a little bit we'll dive deeper into that balancing piece to round out the show. So first things first, question to you, Mac. How did you find Lorcana? Expand on it a little bit more, and then we'll go to Nathaniel next.
Yeah, absolutely. Like beyond what I already explained in the intro, even before that, my wife and I have been into just board games in general for almost our entire relationship. My wife and I have been married for over 5 years now. We've been together for nearly 7. Um, and we both of us grew up in game families, whether it be card games, board games, or anything you can think of, anything in between. And with that interest in that growing up with board games, I think it was pretty natural to dive into a game like Lorcana. Relatively speaking, I think with our background in that, learning a new game was quite easy. As I explained in the intro, a mutual friend of ours, between the three of us, his name is Connor. He was the one that originally explored the game, and I remember him texting me at about 8 a.m. one morning at a random middle of the week, right
What?
before Inklands, and with that. After he had texted me, he asked me if I wanted to would be interested in, pursuing a game like this. And then within 3 hours, I immediately said, yes, let's go. So with that, we were exploring the web on trying to find if there were any first chapters still available or Floodborne at the time. And thankfully, that's when a lot of the reprints were still happening. And from there on, we just completely dove in. And with that, we began extending our lines out to Nathaniel and then eventually to you, Ryan. So I think, just long story short, with that explanation, I think naturally with my previous love of various board games, and card games growing up, it was pretty easy to get into another game like Lorcana, on top of just Disney being fun in general. And it's really hard to get away from Disney these days. And growing up with, especially our generation, growing up with all the fun Disney characters like Lion King, Hercules, and what have you, that combination was really easy to pique that interest and getting right into it.
That's really funny. I had not heard that story before. That Connor and his midweek text, man, early morning midweek text. It's like he doesn't work a normal schedule like everybody else. He has a great gig going.
Yeah,
That's
it was
incredible.
no joke. It was like before my lunch break. I was like, yeah, it was like 11 o'clock. I'm like, I'm in. I'm gonna find my nearest game store. Um, and on my lunch break, I drove to one 5 minutes away, picked up my first pack, and then I was like, all right, here we go. It was just that kind of that natural kid feeling of opening up your first pack. It's something like really I'll truly never forget like what store it was, what time of day. It was really fun, and I've enjoyed it ever since. Really.
So the question that everyone will be asking is, was it a carpool pack, or did you sit in the store and open it? Where did you open that first pack that
It was
really got you
definitely a
hooked?
carpool pack, and I can tell you it was at a Quick Trip. As I was filling up my gas on my way back from my lunch break, I opened the pack while filling up my gas tank. So I have
Uh,
the exact city, about time of day, and gas station of where that first pack was pulled, and it'll truly forever be supplanted in my memory of my first Lorcana pull.
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. All right, Nathaniel, let us know. Tell the people how you found Lorcana.
Yeah, so I don't have the same amazing pack opening story, but I do remember what Connor brought over after asking me my favorite Disney character. He brought over a Simba and a Timon, some
Oh,
cold foils for me. And I was like, wow, those are beautiful. And so I think part of what Connor had kind of tied or kind of put two and two together for me is he knew that both my wife and I are big Disney fans. The only couple cruises I've been on my life were both Disney cruises. They were absolutely incredible. Um, one of the days we had one was a Star Wars day at sea. It's now that is part of the Disney fold. Kind of tied back to Mack's earlier point about being hard to get away from Disney, right? They even have Star Wars these days. And it was awesome kind of see that this was turning into its own card game. I played Yu-Gi-Oh growing up. So I mean, this is almost 20 years ago now, right? But I think being someone who is intensely competitive, as we found when we did things like, build a silly deck, and I'm out here with a fairly meta one. I think for me that has been from the beginning been something that I had really been hoping to get towards is how do I get more and more competitive and have more success against some of the better players in our area. That was always a seemed like a distant goal, but something that really excited me, I think, in one aspect. But the game itself, I think it played so beautifully. It takes a lot of elements from other card games, and that was cool. And of course, the backing of Disney is an amazing driver. Um, but I think one of the things that has really excited me and kept me coming back is the Lorcana community is extremely friendly, and our particular friend group has continued to grow closer and closer. We're getting hyped up about the same type of stuff. It's really really awesome to see that, and bringing friends into the game has been just a tremendous experience for me. I was looking back on this last season for set six, and there's a ton of great highlights, but I think just growing that friend group even tighter and having some amazing memories together. One that will always stick out to me that, like I said, after it happened was when four of us went to a set champs and we all got top 8. That was just really special to me that we were finding success as a friend group after having talked and deck built together. That was just really, really cool over the course of several months. So like I said, I started back in August, and I only had gone to one set champs. It was the one of the final weekends of set 5, and I got the unenviable bubble out ninth, and was down on myself, but was picked up by Mack and Connor at the time when it was just the three of us. And they helped pick me back up and get me excited for the next set and things that would come, and have definitely seen some great improvement over the last quarter or so throughout the game. So I think that's one of the exciting things is there's a long runway to how you can kind of take this game. You can spend a lot of time studying and getting better, and bouncing ideas off of other people usually ends up yielding some pretty good results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it was just the three of you end of set 5. So at some time between end of set 5 and start of set 6, you brought Evan in too? Didn't realize that.
Yeah. So Evan was really shortly before you, Ryan, probably about a month before you. He really started to pick it up.
Oh, interesting.
And was aggressively purchasing some cards to get caught up. But he clearly had a lot of fun with it, and has had his own journey and deck building and everything. And I think that's something I did touch on earlier that even for me, having had some degree of some local success, right? Like I have so much room to grow in terms of how I play the game, but deck building is its own incredible puzzle, right? In terms of how you're constructing it and accounting for all the different elements that happen across the course of a game. So, and some of us are extremely talented at that, and some, like myself, find ourselves are fairly lost in that process. So, there's so much to learn and improve on. I think it's just amazing that even at the simplest of levels, the game is fun. But if you really want to get, brainy about it, you can certainly do that.
I love that. I love that. Sounds like you blended a little bit of the first two things we're going to talk about. I'll highlight my journey, very short and brief as it is. I met Nathaniel and Evan for dinner before they went to set 6 pre-release event at the local game shop that's really close to my house. We had great food. It's a great restaurant that's right there. So if you're ever in the area, I will highly recommend it. That being said, I met them for that. They told me about the game during that dinner. I left there, went back to my house. I did not go to the pre-release event. But then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I think was Black Friday, and I saw all these deals popping up after I'd been looking up and searching things about the game since then and texting back and forth a few times as well, and found that, man, this is really cool, and also this is like the perfect entry point. It was the first chapter gift boxes or gift sets that they ran through Target at a very affordable $40 price point. I don't know anywhere else I was going to be able to access first chapter cards like that in that at that low of a price point, and so just decided to jump in there, and then figured I'd build myself a deck to be somewhat competitive. Similar to Nathaniel, I feel like I need a competitive outlet in my life, and so I try and use this as that outlet, since I don't really want to play soccer anymore at the moment. But we will get back to it eventually in the future, and we'll cover that a little bit more later on the podcast, I'm sure. But yeah, so Nathaniel got me hooked, and then I dove in head first, and we went to 3 set championships, I think, in this set together. So that was really cool
And talk
memory for me
about
too.
Ryan. I mean, you were the definition of beginner's luck when it come to your early polls. I mean, talk
Yeah.
about some of your early polls, because it's quite
Yeah.
insane for someone to just jump in and get what you got.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I got hooked so hard, probably. So I think what Mack is alluding to is that um, the first event I went to it was a sealed event. The local game shop was running a different one than the pre-release one, but Nathaniel went with me to that one too. And we played the sealed event. I pulled, I think, a foil genie wish fulfilled, which at the time was going for like 20 or $30 or something like that, during that event, and then pulled a Baymax, I think, and a couple of Yzmas. Like, it was just nuts. And then at the end of that event, I was sandwiched. I had 2 sandwich packs, and then the middle pack was the pack that the one of the other guys got that were at the event. And in that middle pack that I did not get was an enchanted Baymax, which, is like $150 card at the time, which was really cool just to see it in person. I was super excited. Nathaniel had left the building for a moment to like go outside, and he came back in, and I probably was a little bit too excited and said, "Hey, get over here. You have to see this." But it was really cool to see that pulled at my first event. And then I had previous to that, I had actually purchased a booster box on a discount from online, and was in the process of pulling through that. And I had already packed a Simba Pride Protector from that, which is like a $15 card. 12, I think it might be 10 now, but um, and then the next day after that sealed event, I was like, you know what, I'll just keep opening a few packs and see what I get. And then the first pack I opened after that sealed event was an enchanted Baymax, and so I think that's probably what set the hook really hard and really got it, really stuck me in. Having that level of, if you want to call it that, gambling success and that beginner's luck, to hit that Baymax. And then in one of the first chapter boxes, I actually got one of the first chapter gift sets for Christmas for my in-laws too. And in that box was an enchanted genie on the job from set 1 too. So some pretty unreal luck, and I think I'm probably done packing enchanteds for probably the next 2 years, just based on those 2 alone. We'll see how much volume we end up with, but yeah, that's what that a pretty unreal beginner's luck in that regard for sure.
Yeah, that's insane statistically. Like, 2 enchanted cards within your first 30 packs. That's quite a way to set the hook for sure. And a lot of
Yeah.
jealousy, considering someone who's been around the game for about a year. And although I've pulled maybe 4 or 5 myself, it's insane. And I share that excitement with you when you started to message us about the 2 enchanted pulls you had basically within a week,
Yeah.
within your first month of playing. That was really fun to kind of re-experience what that first enchanted pull is all about, and kind of that little kid excitement, right? That this game
Yeah.
seems to have brought our crew, and is a big reason why I think our crew has become really close over the last couple of months when it comes to using this game as kind of the binding and linking factor throughout all of that. So it's been fun.
Sounds like you had
Yeah.
a bit of like a proud dad moment and experiencing the joy of a tree branch or a falling leaf for the first time as a little kiddo, as you
Absolutely.
watch
There
them
was
grow.
there was a little tear highlighting too, for sure. I mean, it was fun to live vicariously through you in that moment.
And to put that in perspective too, right? That Ryan was able to accomplish this in his first month. I pulled my first enchanted 5 months into the game after Ryan had pulled his two on Christmas Day from 4 packs that my in-laws had purchased me for a Christmas present. And it felt a little bit like Ryan was rubbing off a little bit of that luck onto me, because it was shortly after that I had opened those few packs, and yeah, incredible rush when you see that logo on the bottom of the card and you're like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah.
And they're such beautiful cards. The artwork is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I will say that people, I think there is people are a little bit underwhelmed by the enchanted artwork for set six. A little, kind of, there's some sentiment out there about that. I think I'll always be in the camp that it's a beautiful looking set, and I don't think it could get any better considering I've packed an enchanted out of that first box. So yeah, that felt good. That's probably one of the things that keeps me coming back too, and that excites me about that is a little bit of that, finding that chase card and trying to pack for it, not going all out insane again, finding that balance, but having some fun pulling the packs open and seeing what you can get, and then having that little bit of rush and excitement and being able to enjoy that when you do end up pulling a really good card out of a pack that you were like, yeah, I didn't know I was going to hit anything, but it was nice to find something.
Yeah, and speaking of some of that excitement and rush, I will say this because Ryan will not brag about this, but the fact that you started the game in this set, went to 3 set champs and got top 8 2 out of 3, was also pretty incredible stuff. So I mean that gave me a rush to just see that happen, as a friend and just someone who's seen your journey over the course of the game. I mean, to have some degree of competitive success that quickly is really, really impressive, and with a rush as a third party to it.
Right. Yeah, I know. I've been trying to think about it too. Like we're talking about this topic now of like what excites you and what keeps you coming back, and just thinking over the past year. At first, I fully admit I was definitely going into it from a collector's mindset. Like, oh, this is a fun new Disney game with all these beautiful enchanted cards. At the time, I mean, it still is, right? But the Enchanted Elsa, right? And when I joined, it was just about the time when the reprints of first chapter were happening. So trying to live through that excitement of pulling potentially this Enchanted Elsa or this Maui Hero to All or all those set one artworks from very notable characters from all these Disney movies. I think that's what my original intention was to, play off to the side, but really it was from a collector's mindset. And I think over the course of the year, as I've become more familiar with the game and kind of playing a game maybe one or two off every couple weeks to actually looking into it, developing an understanding of the game, listening to other individuals, not only locally, but from, an online YouTube perspective. I think that mindset change is really, I can see almost a 180, at least for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but like completely switching, although I still have my collectibles, right, when it comes to my set. But
It's Jafar's, can't get away from him.
yeah, I know, right? But now I've changed to um, very much a okay deck building mindset. How can we do not necessarily the most powerful deck, but kind of blending something that's competitive, but with something with movie characters that I like, or the type of gameplay style that I have noticed that I tend to veer towards. I think a lot of that, strategy based mindset has taken over. And that's been something that I've really it keeps me coming back is as new cards are released, as we've had more discussions with other players around the state. And for those of you who don't know, we're from the Twin Cities area, so we have a pretty good competitive landscape here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Um, it's been fun bouncing ideas off those individuals as well. So I think that's what's really keep me coming back is kind of the fresh ideas when you at first, oh, there's only six ink colors. There's really not much you can do. But when you really start to dive into it, there is a lot of different combinations you can do with these 6 different ink colors, and I think that's what keeps me coming back and keeps me excited as new sets are released along the way as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the point of the mindset shift. I honestly came into it thinking like this is going to be a competitive outlet for me. That's what keeps me coming back. Is the opportunity to kind of compete with you guys, compete with in a very friendly environment, compete with other people at events in a relatively friendly environment too, even if it is competitive set champs and whatever it may be. Um, so I haven't had a chance to even have a mindset shift, if you will. I'm
Right.
still everything I'm doing is trying to even out and balance the balance sheet to make sure that this isn't getting out of control. And if I have any high value cards that I don't intend on playing, then trying to trade them away or sell them for um, cards that are that I want to actually be playable with. So that's what I did for a lot of my deck building for the first set championships deck that I made. And that's one of the things that's been driving me. You make a good point though, that this is for multiple people, collectors or players, whatever it may be. And there's plenty of Disney nostalgia left in it anyways, regardless of what you got into it in the first part. I will say that the Disney nostalgia does keep me coming back too, just because it's such a sticking point, and it's so cool to see the movie characters that I saw growing up and got so attached to. Now I get to kind of play with them through these cards, which is a really fun thing. The puzzle of it is the other piece that keeps me coming back to. It's a constantly changing puzzle. Even if you're playing the same exact deck list against the same exact person over and over and over and over, it's very common that you're going to have multiple different nuances that are going to come up throughout the game of how do I want to attack this or how do I want to think through this. So trying to think through those, that constantly changing puzzle is so mentally engaging for me that is just really fun as a way, as another outlet for me when I'm not at work. And then
Yeah.
our group is the last piece, obviously, that keeps me coming back to just getting together about once a month since I started, and having those nights of just like, this is our time just to like hang out in a friendly environment, and we can play some Lorcana, we can talk about other life things, we can eat some good snacks now that we all know each other's favorite snacks. Shout out Connor, thank you for doing that for us. Um, and yeah, so that's what excites me about it.
Sure, and I think a lot of what this conversation has been up to this far is like the Disney excitement, right, and the strategy behind it. But I'm curious to know from your guys' perspective, and maybe Ryan, since you were just finishing from your perspective here, maybe you can continue. What a part of the gameplay have you really enjoyed? I know we all played sports growing up, so I think that's naturally where our competitiveness has come out. But is there any sort of thing or link you've noticed between sports and the competitive nature of a card game, or like what part of the actual gameplay do you find so appealing and has kept you into the game as close as you have been to this very short journey thus far for you?
Yeah, so I think the piece that's kind of the tying the most back together is that like utilization of resources. That was one of the things that I was always thinking through and that I always talk through in every one of my interviews when I think about the team-based aspect of competitive sports and organized sports growing up, is just the utilization of resources, where to put your players in the right positions to be of most effectiveness and most use. So that's one of the pieces of the like gameplay decisions that I really like, is how to maximize the value from the cards that you're playing. And I think, as you could tell from where I gravitated towards with the purple lists, that is a very much a maximizing your resources type of list, and making sure that you're trying to make good trades, and you're having good gameplay decisions, and maximizing the value that you're getting out. You're questing and bouncing, you're drawing extra cards, you're taking value trades with 1 drops into 2 or 3 drops, and just doing that whole process and making sure that you're maintaining kind of tempo and utilizing your resources to the maximum effectiveness. And that's what I really like about it. And that's like part of the puzzle that's really mentally engaging when I'm on the play. And then the other part is just trying to think through all the different possibilities. And that's also what's really fun for me. It's just that like forecasting. That's when you get a forecasting right, it feels really good. You're like, I know exactly what they want to play, what they're lining up for, what they're prepping for, and this is how I know I need to combat it and what I need to do. And that feels really good to be able to figure that out and play to those lines.
Yeah, I could build on that. I think that is well said, Ryan. And as somebody who is a coach of youth athletes as well, there's parallels there with some of the things that we do to encourage the growth in our athletes, and some of that is the preparation that you do. So, do you understand what different ink combinations generally do well? What are they trying to do? Part of that comes from practice. So actually playing the game, understanding some of the best decisions happen from getting those repetitions in, and then adapting. So both in the heat of the game itself, so adapting to what your opponent's doing, and being able to change how you will play the game in response to that, but also just improving your own play. And I actually, I had said when we got Ryan into the fold here that enjoy the early victories over him while they last, because it won't be long. And I said that slightly tongue in cheek, but also because I knew he has a mind for this type of stuff. And um, he actually did take me down in one of the set champs. And I remember being like, bummed that I lost, but also happy for him, and excited because it showed how much growth he had had. And I actually took some lessons from that experience and how he was playing the game. And when you talked about things like maximizing the value of your card, making positive trades, knowing when to quest and when to leave a character upright, right? I actually took some learning through that lick that I experienced from Ryan in a set champs, and put it forward into how I was playing the game, and played it slightly differently going forward, and it helped me a lot. So I think that's something that's also really exciting, is if you have a growth and sort of improvement mindset, you will find ways, looking back on your own games and seeing how other people are playing the game, to kind of continue that incremental uh, growth in your own ability.
Sure.
Yeah, that constant seeking of improvement is also something that I don't think I can ever get away from in my life. Everything that I do, I try to always get better at it the next time around and see what I can do better. And so take a lot of learning away from those things.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting too, because at the core, right, this game is an individual game, right? At its core, it's you versus an opponent. And
Mhm.
so what I've noticed as well is in my kind of competitive and sport upbringing, to this day, I play golf, and that's very much an individual, in your own way type of sport, and especially from the mental aspects. So I think with um, understanding that kind of the mental side of the game, being able to understand what cards to play at what time, if your opponent is getting close to 20 lore, how you're able to adapt to that, and kind of reset your mindset to focus on either challenging or questing yourself or board removal, and being able to focus solely on that from an individual perspective. But we, the three of us, as well as our two other friends we've mentioned by name, Connor and Evan, the five of us, from a team perspective, I've learned we tend to bounce a lot of ideas off of each other, and not only us, but we tend to do so with other members of the community. And I think that's where kind of the team idea or the team perspective comes from, that collaboration effort. So there are aspects of both that I've really enjoyed, and that's where I've learned and been able to um, you know think back on what my sporting history, so to speak, what I've been able to learn from that, and apply it to this game as well, from this time and moving forward as well, because this game is always changing too with meta shifts. So being able to have that collaborative effort as well from a team perspective has been helpful.
Absolutely. Those meta shifts are seismic sometimes.
Yeah, we're
Um,
about 2 weeks away from another one too.
we are getting a little bit up on time here, so just want to move us along here. I do want to talk about kind of the balance piece between life and this game and other hobbies and other interests. So how do you best find yourself finding that balance and making that balance work in your daily, weekly, yearly lives outside of Lorcana, and then within the greater scheme of things? Nathaniel, want to start us off?
Yeah, one of the things I think I've observed with developing a hobby like this, is it kind of reminded me of the shift from being in a just married and then married with a child, and how you by introducing that, I'm not comparing Lorcana to having a kid, mind you. I'm just saying, I think one of the things that it reminds me of as we navigate it, right, is when you and your spouse, uh, you're in a partnership, and you have to have planning for what does the week look like, what does the month look like. Are we filling each of those important buckets each week, each day, right? And finding that balance. So you're getting these creative and personal hobby outlets and those needs fulfilled, but you're also fulfilling those, family obligations, and you're giving your wife enough attention, your child enough attention. And I think that one of the biggest things it continues to remind me as we navigate this, and certain events come up, or surprise Valentine's Day rush, game things pop up, and it's rather later notice, right? Is your ability to plan ahead and have those conversations ahead of time, and kind of know this is what the week is going to look like, the month is generally going to look like, and these are the days I've circled that I'd really like to fill my Lorcana bucket at these particular events with my buddies. I think that's really important. It goes a long way to ensuring that you can still go out and do those things, but also you are still being present for all those other important things that you got to be present on the home front for.
Right. And I think I'd like to add from my perspective and being able to balance. Communication's big, right? And I would echo your statement and trying to understand kind of the upcoming week, couple weeks, month, especially during this most recent set champs. I know a lot of us were juggling trying to be a part of the same tournaments. That way we could not only do the best for the five of us, the crew, and try and see how far we could get. But so there's that scheduling balance as well. But I think financially, right? Like with having a spouse and having a young child as well, we have to consider that financial aspect when it comes to building a competitive deck to still have fun with this game, especially with the amount of competitive and very good players we have around our area. Um, so one thing too that we've learned is being able to prioritize the cards that I want, or at least that I've learned. As sets have been released, not necessarily going in full force and buying a case and hoping you open all the packs, but you have to understand that balance, that maybe less pack opening, as fun as that may be, sacrificing that and using those financial resources to just purchasing the cards directly that you need based on the deck you're trying to build. So I think I've learned that, and I'm still continuing to learn that over the course of the last couple sets for sure. It was definitely a struggle at first because all I wanted to do at first was buy everything first chapter, and but now understanding that we have to work within a budget, raising young families, and it's been a challenge, but I think along the way, and us being able to bounce ideas off of each other in terms of being, we have these resources in our friendship group to be able to trade cards as well, and utilizing that aspect from a resource perspective. It's something that I think we as a group are continuing to learn as we continue to build these competitive decks as we prepare beyond where the game sits as it is right now.
I'm really glad you said that, Mac, because I think that's something that Ryan actually figured out really fast as he came into the game, is being able to find that proper balance between the rush of pack opening and the fact that there is it's a bit of a roulette wheel, right, in terms of what you're going to get, and being playing within your means, but also able to get the cards that you want, right? So, the balance does, I think, naturally shift to, these are the legal cards I need, so I'm either going to trade for those, or I'm going to purchase those, and then maybe I'll do a sealed event or something and get a few packs and kind of experience the joy of a new set without committing several $100s to that particular, just opening, dozens and dozens of packs, right? It's a fun single night. Maybe it's 30, $40. You get to open, 6, 7, 8, 9 packs, and that's kind of your main pack opening experience. And of course, you could do way more than that. You could do way less than that. But I think striking that balance was something that took me a little while to figure that out too, in terms of, pack opening shouldn't necessarily always be for a specific chase card if you are trying to stay within a particular budget.
Yeah, it's definitely been a push and pull from like I said, I definitely came into this game originally from a collector's mindset, so it's been hard for me to relinquish those valuable cards and either to trade them to build a better deck, right? But I've learned. I'm starting to come around that corner. I've been able to trade a couple of my enchanted cards for better for better meta deck building cards, but that's something that will continue to be a journey or a learning, at least for me, along the way as we continue this Lorcana path.
That's it's funny that you mentioned that about the like balance between it, because a lot of that honestly is coming from my wife, and always being able to be open and honest and talk through things with her, and like, hey, this is a new interest of mine. I want to do it for these reasons, and part of those reasons are so I can stay connected with friends, make some new friends, but then also again just emphasizing that it's based on the people, and then we're going to invest some of the money into it because we need to do that. It's a little bit of an original investment. But that's not going to be everything that we do, and we also have to fit everything around it. So kind of my way of finding balance with it is always having that communication, because I know it's a new expense, it's a new adventure, it's a new everything basically. But then also making sure that Lorcana is something that gets fit around my life and not vice versa, not fitting my life around Lorcana. Obviously fitting things in where we can, and having the incredible support of our partners to handle kids and handle whatever else it is around the house while we're gone at set champs and that type of thing. But then also having those trade-offs earlier in the week or other times throughout maybe the next day of like, hey, like you sleep in both days and like take your time, I'll handle everything for the morning, and then you got the evening, that kind of thing. And then throughout the week, just making sure focusing on work, and then any other things like chores around the house or projects that need to get done, presentations, whatever it may be, making sure those things are scheduled. And then if there's another half hour or 60 minutes at the end of the night, then that's when I fit in Lorcana, and that's how I kind of try to find that balance. And then one thing that I'm still working on is, focusing on just my lunch break time, and not necessarily other times throughout the day of just like sending a text here and there or something like that. So it's something that I'm still working on for sure, in that for our daytime chats. But sometimes it's just so exciting, you can't help but glance at the phone and send a quick message and then go back to work.
It's been hard over the past week when the set 7 releases have been announced.
Oh,
It's hard
so
not to get
hard.
excited throughout the course of the day for sure, especially when you have one of our friends who works at home, owns his own business, Connor I'm talking about, and he has this time to just continue to throw little breadcrumbs to us when everything's been released. He's been showing us all the pictures, and we've been going pretty bonkers in our Discord chat for that, sure.
It looks amazing. The set looks amazing. I do really like the artwork that we have for this set too, for what it's worth.
Oh yeah, we'll have plenty to pack into to another to another episode as we're getting closer to set 7. But I know we have a lot
Right.
of thoughts about the new set and how excited we are as well.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts before we get going? Because we're running up to our time cap here that we set for ourselves.
Yeah, I think I'm just excited that we're getting this ball rolling. It's been that we've been thinking about, I think, for a little while, and we're obviously very passionate about the game. So really happy that we're starting to have these conversations and getting them on record, so I can use them against you guys in the future.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add too, this is just supposed to be a very informal podcast from our perspective. Like our intent, right, is to balance our Lorcana hobby with, work-life balance and how those merge. For those of you who do listen to this, we'd be open to ideas. What do you want to hear about, at least from that perspective, or as if you're new players, any tips that we have learned along the way? We are by no means the best players in our area,
No,
but
definitely not.
we're at a point, I think, where we're at least competitive, so we can give some insight into that too. We're curious to know your thoughts and what other topics you'd like us to cover along the way.
I certainly have opinions, but whether or not they're right or correct, or valuable opinions, that's the jury's still out on that. But I do have opinions on some new cards,
Part of the
and
learning
others I have no
process.
idea how they work.
Yep.
Well, appreciate anyone that does listen in. Again, like Max said, let us know if you have any thoughts or ideas. We're always open to improvement. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.
See ya.
Goodbye.